Chair, I can confirm you are live on YouTube.
Thank you, Lauren. Good morning. Could I welcome members and officers and members of the public to this meeting of the Kings Lynn and West Norfolk District Council Planning Committee. My first task is to ask our Democratic Services Officer, Kathy Wagg, if she will conduct a roll call so we know exactly who is attending today's meeting. Kathy, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Bone.
Present.
Councillor Bauer.
Present.
Councillor Bubb.
Present.
Councillor Crofts.
Present.
Councillor Howland.
Present.
Councillor Hudson.
Present.
Councillor Joyce.
Present.
Councillor Kirk.
Present.
Councillor Lawton.
Present.
Councillor Manning.
Present.
Councillor Parish.
Present.
Councillor Patel.
Present, thank you.
Councillor Rose.
Present.
Councillor Ives.
Present.
Councillor Sandal.
Present.
Councillor Spikings.
Present.
Councillor Squire.
Yeah.
And Councillor Story.
Present. Yeah.
Yeah, that's everyone. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. We also have Stuart Ashworth, who's the Deputy Director of Planning and the Environment, and also the Principal Planners, Hannah Wood-Handy and Helen Morris, and they will be presenting the applications to us. I'm obliged to read out the following. I would like to remind members that the meeting is being recorded and streamed live via YouTube. By attending this meeting, you are giving your permission to be recorded and streamed. Members should ensure that their video is switched on during the meeting, but their microphones are turned off until you are invited to address the committee. If you experience any broadband problems and need to turn off your camera, please let me know in the chat function, and you will need to confirm at the start of each item and at the end of each item that you've heard the full debate. Can I please remind you that if you drop out because of broadband problems, you will not be able to participate in that or vote on that particular item. If you would like to ask a question after we have heard the applications being presented, please use the chat function. You will then be invited to address the committee at the appropriate time. Please do not interrupt other members or officers while they are presenting their report or answering questions. Please do not leave the meeting during an item unless you will not be able to participate in the debate or vote on that matter. If you need to leave the meeting at any time, please inform the chair by using the chat function. That's that one read. We will now go to the main agenda that you all have in front of you. And the first item is apologies for absence, Kathy.
Chair, there's no apologies for absence.
Thank you very much. Minutes of the last meeting, they've all been forwarded to you. Anyone has anything to say about them? Otherwise, I will sign them the next opportunity I get. I must have about 20 to sign now, but I haven't been in Kings Lynn. Declarations of interest. Anyone got an interest greater than anyone else present? Now is the time to declare it. And on that point, I would like to declare I'm a member of Kings Lynn IDB. The application, which refers to the second one, just mentions Internal Drainage Board, but I do know it's Kings Lynn IDB, so I'm a member of that. I believe we have one or two others.
Chair, I'm IDB member too.
Julian Kirk.
And I, Mike Howard.
And we have Tony Bob too. I think that's all of us.
That's
okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I think I know Mrs. Hannah Howell, but I'm
Sorry?
not 100% certain which is on the first application.
Oh, I see.
She's
Okay.
I know someone with that name, but I'm not sure if that's her.
The comments are noted. Thanks very much. Thank you. Over the next page, I'll look at urgent business understanding order 7. There's none I've been advised of. Members attending understanding order 34. I believe we have 2 speakers, Kathy.
Yes, Chair, we have Councillor Diwali on 82C and Councillor Kemp on 82. Sorry, Councillor Diwali is on 82A and Councillor Kemp is on 82C.
Could I welcome both councillors, and we look forward to your contributions. Chair's correspondence is item number 6. I've not, if any I do receive, I forward them on to the officers for them to respond. I do not respond myself. Receipt of late correspondence on applications, you've all received them. We're asked to note that. The index of applications, you're asked to note that, and you have got those in front of you right now. Now, decisions on applications. The first one we have to consider is on page 8, and it's at East Walton. We have 3 speakers, and Helen, this will be you.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, members. I'll just bring the presentation up. Okay, so this application seeks full planning permission for the siting of 38 storage containers at the Old Pheasantry, which is situated to the east of Church Lane in East Walton. So you can see the application site outlined in red here. This is Church Lane. So there is an access track that runs off of Church Lane, but access is taken via the B1153, which just runs along here. So the access track joins the B1153, and that's how access would be taken for the use of the storage containers. So there are 37 storage containers currently on the site out of the 38 that are proposed. This is just a close-up of the existing site, so it shows the previous buildings that are currently still on there. But this shows the storage containers and their siting. So just to the east of the existing buildings. And you see the access into the site here. The containers are used for self-storage purposes by local residents from the surrounding area, and also by local tradespeople and businesses such as builders and so on. The Westacre Estate office and also the Montessori Nursery School also make use of the storage facilities currently. So here's a perspective view of the site. Again, the access into it there. Storage containers in rows with the access provided to them. And this is just some perspective views of the site. But I'd say you'll see as we go through to the photographs that the majority of the containers are already there. So this is facing towards the site from the Church Lane end. This is at the junction of the access track. This is again looking east along the access track towards the site. As you can see from further back towards Church Lane, you really can't see the existing containers that are already there. They are well screened and really not very visible. So this is just showing some of the existing hedgerow screening along the access track. And then this is the access point from the track. So you can see the tops of the containers there. The majority of them have been painted green, certainly on the exterior views, but internally there are some existing colours, as you'll see shortly, but an extra condition has been added on in late correspondence to ensure that they all get painted green in total. So this is facing south within the site. It's one of the existing buildings, and you see the edge of one of the containers there. And this is facing southwest, showing existing buildings there. The previous use, or historically, the site has been used for agricultural purposes. I think prior to the storage containers being on there, the most recent use was as a quail farm. This is facing east within the site, just inside the access, so you can see all the storage containers there. And then again, this is facing east within the site. So this is looking out, so the B1153 will be over in the distance there. As you can see, it's the internal view where you have, they've not been finished being painted green as yet. And this is northeast. And then this is looking north, so looking back towards the access point there, where you can see the truck there. And then this is a view from the western side. So you can see the existing buildings will screen, or do screen the storage containers somewhat, so there are only limited views from that side. And again, this is the middle of the site facing west. And then this is just looking to give you an idea of the surrounding area. So this is looking out of the site facing southwest towards into the church there. And then facing southeast within the site. As you can see, there is screening from trees and hedgerows and so on. And then this is a view of the site back now from Church Lane. And as you can see, due to the screening and the distance and also the existing buildings on the site, you really can't see the storage containers. And then another view there shows they are really hidden from view. And then this is looking facing east from the B1153. And again, very limited views, if any at all, of the storage containers in the distance there. So members may recall a similar application for the siting of 15 self-storage containers was refused at Planning Committee on the 2nd of December 2019. And they were, that was for the site at Abbey Farm, River Road, Westacre. This current application is in response to that refusal and has involved the relocation of the containers plus additional units in order to try and overcome the previous reasons for refusal, which related to the unjustified harm to the setting and significance of the listed buildings and the schedule entrant monuments at the Westacre site. Plus also another reason was in relation to its unsustainable location. The key issues in the consideration of this application are set out on page 10 of your agenda. And there are no heritage assets affected by the current proposal. NCC, like Norfolk County Highways, have raised no objection to the proposal. And as I've already tried to show you from the photographs, there is a very limited visual impact from the storage containers. The officer recommendation is therefore to approve, and the application is brought to committee as it was called in by councillors Manning and Diwali. Thank you.
Thank you, Helen. I should have mentioned that Councillor Manning and Councillor Diwali called it in. Anyway, we have 3 speakers. Kathy.
Could we please have John Thorpe to address the committee, and you have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Welcome, John. You're on mute.
Okay, can you hear me okay now?
And now.
Okay, good. Good morning, I'm John Thorpe, a resident of East Walton for 20 years, and I speak today as the objector's representative. East Walton has just under 100 residents and the applicant owns about 70% of houses, and as a result, some opinions are muted. Despite this, there is significant opposition, the only support coming from people who do not live in East Walton, bar one. The site has historically been of agricultural use, the visual impact being a few sheep and chickens. More recently, it was a small quail farm in keeping with agriculture and historical use. There was no impact visually and was suitable and sustainable with its rural environment. On the 12th of August, only 6 days after application filing, containers started arriving and operating. A village meeting was held on site with the applicant on the 14th of August. The applicant was unable to allay residents' fears concerning visual impact, site suitability for industrial use, road network not being able to sustain increased traffic, and access by a single track lane. The applicant told the meeting if demand was sufficient, they would look to increase the number of containers on site. We have had shipping containers in the village for nearly 6 months and the business has been trading. Our fears have been realised. Traffic, visual impact, suitability and sustainability. Groundwork on site continues. Change of use from agricultural to industrial is not suitable for a rural setting and no infrastructure to support. Storage facilities are vacant and available in Swaffham and Narborough. These are industrial estates with an infrastructure to support. The decision by Norfolk Highways was made without viewing the site and based on access only, not suitability. The Environmental and Planning Department objected on the 2nd of September to the application on the grounds of restricted byway. The site access is via a public right-of-way and restricted byway. The Green Infrastructure Officer objected over concerns regarding public access, poor maintenance, loss of amenity and increased danger to all byway users. These users include walkers, cyclists, numerous horses and horse-drawn carriages. There is a livery stable close to container site. A West Acre planning application was refused in December 2019 for 2 reasons. West Acre is a remote rural village and as such is considered an unsustainable location for container business development. Secondly, the nature of the business will generate additional traffic. East Walton has many similarities as laid out with core strategic policy and the provisions of the National Planning Policy Framework. Completed. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Speaker Kathy.
Chair, we have Mr. Alec Birbeck who's trying to join the meeting at the moment. Are you happy to let him speak when he's able to join, or do you wish Councillor Diwali to address the committee now?
I think to keep things, I think Councillor Diwali, he is able to speak, is he? And then we can hear the other one after that.
Yeah, he's
Hopefully
just
about to
trying.
join us then.
Yeah, he is trying to join, Chair.
Okay.
Councillor Diwali, please.
Welcome, Michael.
Good morning, Chair and fellow councillors.
Morning.
Thank you for allowing me to speak today. Loss of amenity. I was contacted by very upset residents of East Walton last summer when this application was submitted. It has caused very strong feelings in the village, which is classed in the local plan as a smaller village or hamlet and resulted in a significant number of communications. The applicant began installation of the shipping containers in East Walton at the end of the summer and commenced commercial operation shortly thereafter as a consequence of enforcement in West Acre. This was just after submitting the planning permission, before you. Users of the facility have already got into the habit of accessing it via the village. Roads. The B1153 is a dangerous, twisting and unlit road, often used as a shortcut onto the A47. I know it well and used it regularly when I was a member of the auxiliary RAF. A family member has had 2 accidents on the road. Not that long ago, I had a refuse lorry pull out straight in front of me from Wilson's Grove. I was lucky to brake in time, even though I had already slowed in anticipation. I am aware of 3 serious accidents and a fatal one on this stretch of road in the last 4 years. The latest being August 2020, shortly after the containers were moved to East Walton. Built heritage. I note that the West Acre application was declined due to compromising its historic status. However, East Walton also has heritage assets in close proximity to the application site, which go unmentioned in the officer's report. There is the Grade 1 listed Church of St Mary's, reference 107-7667, with its 14th century chancery and round tower that predates the Norman invasion, atop which the containers are clearly visible. Next to St Mary's are the ruins of Grade 2 listed St Andrew's Chapel, reference 134-2380, which is also a scheduled ancient monument. Immediately, almost immediately, the other side of Church Lane and to the north of Abbey Farm to the application, immediately the other side of Church Lane to the application site and to the north of Abbey Farm, there are the remains of a medieval settlement. Yet another scheduled ancient monument, reference 101-9334. Conclusion. East Walton is a beautiful village surrounded by both natural and built history. The additional dust, noise and traffic from this proposal are detrimental to the local environment and residential amenity. This is an application which will greatly benefit from a site visit before determination. Permission, if granted, will irreversibly convert agricultural premises situated in open countryside into a commercial operation. It self-evidently does not make a positive contribution to the local character or conserve and enhance the historic environment. However one dresses this application up, East Walton is less appropriate and sustainable than the West Acre site, with its proximity to Castle Acre and access to rudimentary bus service. And this was rightly refused, as this application should also respectfully be refused. I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Michael. Kathy, we have one other speaker. How are we getting on with the letting him speak?
Chair, it's Wendy. Mr. Burbeck is still not in the meeting.
And then there's nothing I can do, only invite members to speak. And I believe if he can join us during the debate, we should let him speak. But then it's over to members now. Oh, no, it isn't. It's Helen, have you got anything to say about what the speakers have said at the present time?
I've just a couple of points, if I may. In relation to the first speaker, I think they raised comments in terms of public rights of way and restricted byway. Just to reiterate what's in the report on page 12 is Norfolk County Council Public Rights of Way officer has raised no objection to the current proposals.
Okay.
And then in relation to some of the points that Councillor Diwali made, as I tried to explain within the presentation, there is considered to be no impact on heritage assets under this application. Obviously, I did show you the view of the church across the field. So yes, obviously the church is within East Walton, is in fairly close proximity, but the storage containers really aren't overly visible from outside of the site, as I tried to show that within the photographs. Also, it's worth pointing out Norfolk Historic Environment Service have raised no objection on this application as well, whereas they pick it up on the weekly list and they would have said if they had any concerns. And in terms of the use of Church Lane as an access point instead of the B1153, obviously if they are using Church Lane at the moment, then obviously this application, if it's permitted, there are conditions which would secure the use of the B1153. Conditions 2, 3 and 4 that are recommended to be imposed would help with that, obviously, in terms of the traffic management and signage for the routing to the B1153 instead of using Church Lane and the village roads. Thank you.
Thank you, Helen. Kathy, any luck with Mr. Alec Birbeck?
Chair, Mr. Birbeck is now in the meeting with us. If you'd like to address the committee, Mr. Birbeck, you have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Welcome, Alec.
Hello, good morning.
Morning.
Firstly, I'd apologise for always being on the back foot with these containers. It's been tricky just to make plans for for how to get them in the right location. Other than the supporting planning statement, which I think covers pretty much everything that I want to say, I don't know whether you understand the background of the why we've got containers in the first place. We historically had a lot of empty barns in the Abbey Yard that ended up being used by residents and local businesses to store all of their materials and belongings. But as we developed the brewery in the yard and started developing the other derelict or semi-derelict sheds for artist studios and workshop spaces, we ran out of space for all of our tenants' belongings. And it seemed a logical step to get a few containers to fill it up. So that's how it's sort of developed. And then, as you know, we were refused permission to keep the containers in Abbey Yard due to the inappropriate context of the scheduled monument and the ruins and the listed building of the barn. And the pheasantry seemed the logical solution. It was recently empty and had fairly good access from the main road. I completely understand that some conditions on access are important, and that at first there was a huge concern from local residents of the excessive traffic that was perceived to happen, or was conceived that could result from this development. I did disagree that we have found that the levels of traffic are not excessive, or actually any more than had historically been used on the site. I'm confident that the benefits that it provides for local businesses and local residents is worthwhile. We have a huge demand for low-cost storage solutions, and it's I hope it will be seen as a low impact use for the land.
That's it, Mr. Birkbeck, yes?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Helen, have you got anything to add what Mr. Birkbeck's just said?
And nothing to add, thank you, Chair.
Nothing at all, and it's over to members. I see we have 6. The Deputy Chair will be in charge of that. Over to you, Carol.
Councillor Colin Manning first, Chair.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Yes, I'm afraid I take a rather different view than Mr. Birkbeck. There's nothing personal in this. I try and support local businesses, but really this is incredible, I think, that this has been suggested for approval. It's completely the wrong place. There are a number of issues. I think Councillor Diwali, who my fellow ward member, as you know, we take quite different views on a number of issues with different political parties, but planning and licensing, of course, are things that party politics should not take part in, and they certainly don't here. A number of issues, and I'll try and go through them. I don't want to repeat and bore people with what we already heard, which I think have been perfectly put by both Mr. Thorpe and Michael Diwali. The fact that the highways have raised no objections is of no surprise to me. I think they barely at times know probably where places like East Walton are. I'm sorry to sound cynical. It is also very difficult, I would suggest, with respect for an applicant to police how people approach their premises. Unless they've only got one entrance, people will find their way. In my village, we've got a very well-run business, and they tell contractors coming to them in their lorries to come a particular way, and a number of them choose not to and cause problems. So every now and again, we as a parish council have to sort of remind them of that. I'd also mentioned, looking on another page, of course, when they were at Abbey Farm, I think there were 15. This is now doubled, more than doubled in size. And I quite believe that it's the thin end of the wedge. I know we're only looking at what's in front of us, but 37, they want 38. The other interesting point, why paint them green if you can't see them? The fact is they can be seen. Well, they definitely can be seen. And I don't know why people say they can't. They can be seen. They certainly look better green than they do in the other horrendous graffiti that seems to cover them. East Walton, as we already said, is classified as a smaller village. It does nothing for employment or anything like that. Another point I was looking at, and I think it has been mentioned, this really, and I know that a day like today with the snow, probably the Zoom meeting is quite convenient for many of us. We haven't got to go outside and come to a meeting in the town hall. But quite frankly, and I know this is not a problem, it's for health and safety. We can't have site visits, or we haven't had site visits. But my goodness, this is one that certainly, if we're debating this on a normal Monday morning in the town hall, I would have suggested that we went on the Thursday in the bus and had a look at it to see for ourselves. I think without a site visit, quite frankly, we ought not to consider it. As I say, that the question of painting is I find the report somewhat a bit of a hodgepodge, a bit like a Woolworths pick and mix. You pick which bits you want from which way you look at it. But from my point of view, I think I've had, as Councillor Diwali said, I've had a host of emails and phone calls in the time since I've been a councillor in 2011. I think the only other things that have caused me so much emails and phone calls was when I represented Heacham and somebody wanted to, or the council was thinking about closing Heacham Fire Station. It generated that amount of concern, and still is concerned to me. And I think it is completely the wrong place for it. And I really cannot understand why it's been recommended for approval. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Manning. Next speaker, please.
Councillor Vivian Spikings, please, Chair.
Good morning. I'd just like to know, could I see on the map, please, just where about these monuments are shown, please? Because I obviously listened carefully to the speakers, and this was mentioned, it's in the report, but I would just like to see where in the proximity, please. And then I'll carry on with the debate, please.
I'm afraid I don't have a map to hand that shows that. I'm afraid I can show you where the church is on the mapping system.
Yes, go on then, please. Yeah, that will be helpful, Helen.
Right,
Sorry that you haven't got the other. It would have been helpful, but on the other hand, if we haven't got it and we didn't give prior notice, I understand.
So this is the Google Maps image. So this is
Yes.
the application site here, Church Lane and the B1153. So
Yeah, I
that's
saw
the
that.
access track. And then you've got the church just here.
Right. Thank
which
you very
can see
much.
I can show you the photograph as well that I brought
Yes,
up
please.
before if you want me to. Yeah.
Yes, please.
I just stop that. Oh, there we go. The church in the distance. So this is the case officer's taken the photograph from the middle of the site, facing southwest towards the church there.
Right. Thank you for the clarification. I'm going to hold back on the debate. Yeah, I want to hear a bit more before I might add some more words, but at this moment in time, I'm going to reserve the right to speak later. Thank you.
Thank you, Vivian. Next speaker, please.
Councillor Rives, please. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. Having listened with great interest to the views of the two borough councillors in this respect, and having considered the very large number of objections from local people, having a natural antipathy towards these retrospective applications, which our officers present to us without telling us they're retrospective, can I suggest that we do indeed proceed to a site visit? Because it's very difficult to kind of take all this information on. There's clearly is a case for having a business activity here, but it is very dependent on the setting. And the impression I get without seeing the site visit is I'm not very sympathetic towards this application. So can I propose that we do go for a site visit? I wonder if anyone would care to second that for me, please.
Councillor, that will need to be seconded. I believe we may be acting. Is it against the law?
Is it against the law to ask for a site visit?
Imagine a site visit with the distances apart and the general public can be there too. I think it'd be nearly impossible to organise.
Well, I'm not suggesting a site visit.
Circumstances.
I'm not suggesting a site visit tomorrow, but I don't see how we can make an informed decision without the site visit, given all the sort of suggestions of, heritage assets which we don't seem to be able to locate on the map. I just feel that it would be inappropriate for us to proceed to a decision without giving ourselves the benefit of site vision. And I feel we owe that to the residents of this community. And we need to listen to the two borough councillors who have expressed an opinion here.
I'll second, Tom.
Thank you.
We have a proposer and we have a seconder. We'll carry on with the debate then. We will vote on that before we come to at the end of the debate. Have we got any other speakers? Oh, I see we have.
Councillor Charles Joyce, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to divide me, I was very interested with the first speaker who said that 70% of the properties are actually owned by the applicant in East Walton. I'm not sure if that's an actual number, but it's going to be a high number without doubt. And against that, the applicant is clearly trying to diversify. So it's wrong whichever way one goes, as far as I'm concerned. On the site visit, I mean, you know my view on this, Mr. Chairman. Send a drone; it'll do much better than people turning up on a bus and then not even getting off it, which has happened at some site visits. And I do understand we do need more information, but will we actually be taken to the direct appeal if we defer? These are the difficult situations that I don't have an answer to right this minute. Maybe Stuart, who wants to come in, can give us some advice on that.
Stuart, did you want to speak?
Yeah, I'm just going to say on the, the word defer was mentioned there. One issue is for me is that heritage assets isn't in the report, and it was raised by a couple of councillors. Certainly we know where the church is, but I wasn't aware of the scheduled ancient monuments. I suspect, well, two things. A deferral may be sensible because it would allow us to deal with that issue. And also we can come back on the issue of the site visit as well. So that would be my suggestion, Chairman, in this particular case, is to bring it back. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. That's noted. We will continue the debate.
Councillor Parish, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. Well, two things really. I know a suggestion for deferral has just been made, but that would presumably allow the business to continue, even though it's been operating without permission for some months. I can only think that during pre-application advice, it was suggested that there would be no problem with this application. Obviously there is. But on page 19, in the middle, there's a short paragraph which says, on the basis of the above, and whilst there are still some issues in terms of locational sustainability, could we have in terms of locational sustainability explained in words of one syllable, please? It's a phrase which doesn't easily get digested. So what issues are there in terms of locational sustainability?
Effectively, effectively, Chairman, where it's in a smaller village and hamlet, it's relatively remote, and that is effectively what the officer said. That is one of the negative points on this application. But what she's done on page 22, as we're bound to do, is weigh up the benefits against the harm, and obviously, which is what you'll do as well. And what she said is that the benefits outweigh that particular issue. So it's where it is really. If it was on the edge of a key rural service centre, that would be better because you're nearer to that in terms of location. So that is the issue that the officer is referring to.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Councillor Bone, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. There's been very good arguments put forward for both approval using interpretations of national and local planning policies. Considering the road, here is an element of danger there. It is quite a dangerous road. A lot of the businesses mentioned in the report are very transient businesses. They would have to travel to get their work, as in the trades. In fact, nearly most of the businesses mentioned in there, all apart from the school. I just can't see how the benefit of it is. It is a small hamlet, and I do appreciate that the business needs to diversify and that, but I'm not convinced. And I think we need to have a look at the site in some form and to get a better idea.
Thank you, Councillor.
Councillor Squire, Chair.
Thank you. I have to say that I think deferring is probably a good idea. I'm in two minds. And on one hand, I think that a business has to be sited near where it needs to be for the people that are using it. I'm more surprised that in such a small area, in small hamlets, there are so many people that need so much storage. That's really quite shocking. It concerns me that this applicant has done this twice, and we've had two retrospectives on this, and that if we refuse this, where's he going to move them next? Will we see more applications everywhere else for these containers? So I think once and for all, it might be worth deferring until we all have more information.
Thank you, Councillor.
Councillor Squire. Oh, sorry, Councillor Sandal.
Thank you. Yeah, listening to other people, I think a deferral is probably a good idea. Lots has been mentioned about the heritage assets of the Waltons and the heritage sites. What we've got to remember that if we refuse this application on heritage assets, we have lost rather a large appeal before on using heritage assets as a valid planning reason for refusal. So I don't think we can refuse it on that. So I think we've got to look a bit more closely and maybe defer until we have some perhaps more information. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam.
Councillor Rives again.
Again, is it a new point, Councillor?
Well, 2 points, yes. First, in response to Councillor Squires, the reason it seems to be endemic in our community that we insist on building houses which are too small, which presumably means there's going to be infinite demand for sort of storage facilities like this, which was a bit glib. The other point I really want is more serious. I really don't understand why certain parties who I would really like to see included as consultants do not seem to be approached by the council. They may not be statutory consultees, but I would have thought the views of the Council of Protection of Rural England are extremely relevant, given that this is a part of rural England. And I would think also that the Norfolk Historical Environment Service, I think it's it's not acceptable to say, well, we rely on the fact that they didn't come to us having seen that information. We should make a point of approaching these organisations when issues such as this, which involve countryside development and involve sort of heritage assets, come to the fore. And it's not really acceptable to me that we sort of, we don't make that effort. We should be doing that. Thank you.
Would you like to comment on that? I can imagine the
Well,
work involved there.
yeah, exactly. And I think the CPRA wouldn't want to be swamped with every application in the countryside. I mean, that's the reality of it. It will be thousands and thousands and thousands across the country. So they do pick and choose what they come back to us on. Historic England Environment Service, they chose to be consulted that way. They want the weekly list so they can go it through themselves to see if there's anything that particular interests them, rather than have officers pick and choose, if you like, what they think we may be of interest to them. They've got their databases there, and they choose to do that. So we send them the weekly list, and that was something that we agreed with them. They're not a statutory consultee either, but they do pick up the weekly list.
Thank you, Stuart. Councillor, I know we've got one other speaker. Councillor Rice, would you be happy to, you did make a proposal for a site visit, would you be happy, it would appear to be there's a certain amount of support for deferment. Would you be happy to adjust it to that?
Well, in a sense, a site visit will necessitate deferment. I go back to what I said. For me to make an informed opinion, I really feel I need to see the site, especially in light of
we can't do that legally, can we?
We can't do that at this moment in time.
That's what I mean. So deferment may fill the bill. But it's up to you.
Yes,
anyway,
I would agree with that comment.
We have one other speaker.
Councillor Howland.
Thank you, Chairman. Something which we don't seem to be looking at the moment. Surveyors, architects, engineers, British Telecom all use drones. We could use drone to do a site visit. A drone can see more in the air than we can from a bus. And it'd be better than Earth Google because you can get closer to it. It might be something that we should be thinking about, because who knows how long this COVID thing is going to go on for. And wouldn't it save some money as well? Over to you.
I'd like to say, Michael, I'm well aware that that is being looked at, that there's nothing to announce at the present time, but that situation is being looked at. I'm well aware of that. We have one other speaker.
Councillor Parish, Chair.
New point, Terry?
Yes, a new point. Well, it seems that a delay might be agreed, but we don't know how long that delay will be. Now, this site's been operating for some months without planning permission. Can it be assumed that until permission is granted, then the site will be told that it can't operate?
Sorry, I'll come back to that, Chairman. No. I mean, even if it was refused and we served an enforcement notice, that would take 2 months to come into effect anyway. Yeah. So, and they'd have the right of appeal. So the answer to that is no. We can't just stop people doing it like that, I'm afraid.
Thanks, Stuart. Councillor Story. Oh, sorry, that's your job, Carol, not mine.
Councillor Story, Chair.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you very much for your time, Chairman. The business again on this application, and of course many others we have, as this word of retrospective, and that's cropping up, Chairman, now on a very regular basis. And I personally think, that's my opinion, of course, that human nature being what it is, when the committee see the word retrospective, probably we're making a small judgment on the application due to the fact that that's retrospective and probably not just taken as it is. And I agree, I don't think that should be retrospective. I think every person putting in for plan and permission should put in for the start. And I think this committee should make representations to the powers to be who make these decisions, government or otherwise, or the planning system, to get retrospective taken out of the planning system, because I believe that is affecting people's judgment sometimes on an applications when they come forward, because they see that word and probably not digesting the whole application in the round, Chairman.
Any comment on that, Stuart?
Yeah, I mean, we've been here before, really, on the retrospective.
Yeah.
And in fact, with various governments have been there before. It's one of those contentious things in the planning system that raises its head from time to time, and successive governments have left it in there effectively. The general thinking is that some people will catch too many innocent people, but there are, of course, some people who use the system differently. But it's one of those. It is part of it, and it's long established part of the planning system.
Thank you, Stuart. Well, we've given this a good covering, and we have a proposal. Councillor Alan Rives, are you sure you want to stick to the business about? Because if you're proposing a site visit as such, I believe that may well be illegal. But you could propose, of course, a deferment, which would be cover the same thing. It's up to you. I can't. It's your choice. You as the person who made the proposal.
I listened to what you're saying, and if I may change my proposal to being that we do defer.
Defer.
With perhaps the intention of going for a.
And would you be happy to second that, Councillor Robert Lawton?
Yep.
Okay. This is the reasons for a deferment is because you're unhappy with the information that has been provided, and what are the reasons for the?
Especially so, well, in my case, the main reason is this the existence of heritage assets in this area, which we don't seem to. Which it seemed to me that our planning officers weren't fully aware of the extent of the heritage assets.
Right,
that's a major consideration.
Councillors, you've heard the debate. We've had a proposal that the application is deferred, and it's been seconded by Councillor Lawton. And Kathy, could you organise the vote, please?
Yes, certainly, Chair. Councillor Bone.
For.
Councillor Bauer.
For.
Councillor Bubb.
For.
Councillor Crofts.
I'm for.
Councillor Howland.
For.
Councillor Hudson.
For.
Councillor Joyce.
For.
Councillor Kirk.
For.
Councillor Lawton.
For.
Councillor Manning.
For.
Councillor Parish.
For.
Councillor Patel dropped out of the meeting,
he
so
can't
unfortunately
speak.
he can't speak.
I should have
Councillor
mentioned that.
Rose.
Yeah.
For.
Councillor Rives.
For.
Councillor Sandal.
For.
Councillor Spikings.
For.
Councillor Story.
For.
And Councillor Squire.
For.
Yeah, that's
believe-
carried unanimously.
I believe that's been carried unanimously. We covered that and covered that in depth. Thanks everybody for your contributions. So that application we will see again, no doubt, in due course. So we'll now move on to the next one we've got to decide, which is on page 25. So this is Walpole Cross Keys. We have no speakers, and this is in Hannah's area. Hannah, over to you for the presentation for this.
Thank you, Chair. Just try, there we go. There we go. Okay, the site is West Home Nursery, which is 65 Station Road, Walpole Cross Keys. It's for the proposed storage unit extension. As described within the report, this is an existing business site which has kind of diversified from a nursery to B1 uses. The nursery use still exists. And as explained in the report, there are a couple of businesses owned by the same people, outlined in blue, operating from the site. So this is Station Road. If you look on page 26 of your agenda pages, in terms of the plan, just to tell you the proximity of the site to the A17, the left-hand corner of the plan where it says drain is the A17, so you can see how close that is to the main transport network. So this is the application site. The existing situation is glass houses or greenhouses, existing buildings, and the existing building, which is located here. Let me just put my little laser pointer on, which is here. And then the proposed site is demolish the greenhouses here to allow for more permeable surface and to construct the extension to the north of the existing building here. So this is the existing building, it's a profile sheeted building. And then the proposed extension is slightly taller, but the same design as the existing building. And there you have the extension on the floor plan. So this is the proposed building, and the extension will go off to the left of your screen here, where this van is, so in here, and this what we call an ISO container here will be removed You can see it's screened by the existing conifers. And that's the ISO to be removed, so the building will be in here. And then again, the existing business JKN. The location of the approved office building as set out in the planning history section of your report. The glass houses that are going to be removed to the left-hand side and existing parking areas. And again, another shot of those. And then looking at the hard stand between the two existing buildings. And again, the existing nursery glass houses. And that's a further of the ISO container to be removed. Okay. Issues are set out on page 27 of your agenda pages. The application is recommended for approval. You'll note there's a little bit of late correspondence on page 1 of your late reps relating to the clarification on the existing and the proposed traffic numbers and the fact that a planning application has been submitted for JK Engineering building. The application is recommended for approval and it's brought to planning committee as the parish council object and sifting panel require the application to be determined by planning committee. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. We have no speakers, so it's over to members. Carol, have we got anyone who wants to speak?
Not yet, Chair.
Anyone wishes to speak? This is brought before us because it was asked to come before us by the sifting panel.
Sorry, Chair, I did put my name down to speak.
Oh, I beg your pardon. Sorry.
Thank you. This is my ward, actually.
Yes, it is, Sandra, isn't it? Yes.
It is. I note that on the photographs, there is no pictures of Station Road itself with the access, which is what the parish council are particularly concerned about. That I don't know when the photos in the yard were taken, but they look quite dry, quite summery. But Station Road is very narrow. There's an awful lot of issues, particularly at the moment. I'm also the county councillor. I have complaints coming on HGVs, particularly damaging the verge to the point where the road is constantly muddy and cyclists are struggling to use it. It's affecting the quality of the road. And while we need to encourage businesses to expand in rural locations, I don't think it was fair not to show the committee what the parish council actually complained about. And what actually I would like to ask is, can we put a condition on there that the traffic coming in and out of there has to go up to the A17 and does not go through the village itself?
I believe that could be difficult, but Stuart.
Sorry, I was on mute.
Yeah.
I mean, it's difficult to control routing of traffic. I mean, all you could do really is have signage, perhaps turn left or whatever, a scheme of signage at the on the application site. I think that would probably be the best you could achieve, Chairman.
Thank you.
That would be good.
Does that need any other involvement with us? I didn't quite follow that.
No, it's just to make sure that if you're proposing an additional condition, obviously that will need to be voted upon.
Right, and that there was. Did you make a proposal for that, Sandra?
Yes, please.
And the condition is, what do you want to propose again? I missed the gist of it all.
That traffic should be diverted out of the site, left towards the A17 and not towards the village.
Diverted. Can we do that?
What I would say to suggest, Chairman, is probably a scheme for traffic signage on the site, with obviously with the aim of encouraging it to encourage.
Yeah, understand that. You will need a seconder, Sandra.
I'll second that, Chair.
The second that was that the
Carol.
Deputy Chair? You covered up with the chat box. Yes, Carol. Okay, fine. Well, we've got no one else who wishes to speak. So that proposal.
Councillor Joyce wants to speak, and then Councillor Parish.
Oh yes, sorry, I didn't. Yeah, I missed that. Okay, Charles.
It's actually on the diversion of the traffic, Mr. Chairman. Norfolk County Council Planning Regulatory Committee, when they approved an anti-waste application at Saddleborough Road, it actually had a sign, "No right turn" as you left the site. You had to turn left. No right turn, so you didn't go through the villages. So it's it's very feasible, and there's case law on it. So, from what Councillor Squire has said, it seems a very reasonable suggestion, but it can be, it is possible to have that as a condition.
I remember the one you mean. That was on the A47. No, it wasn't the A10, wasn't it?
No, Mr. Chairman, it wasn't. It was.
Oh, sorry, I've got the wrong one.
I can nearly throw a stone and hit it. It is on the on Saddlebar Road. It's where the power station is.
Anyway, everything's got to be on its own merits anyway, hasn't it? But you understand that.
It's very
Anyway,
what I'm saying is, you can have a condition leaving the site. You turn left or you turn right. You can have a condition to restrict it, and obviously you have the condition coming in as well. Prior said it's quite feasible.
Okay, we will get to that proposal very soon. We've got other speakers.
Councillor Parish next, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. I noticed on page 29 for the Highways Authority consultation that they've hedged their bets a little bit. It says on the last paragraph there, if your authority does not believe that there's been a breach of condition 5, blah, de blah. I would recommend a similar condition again for applied to the application, as we do not believe that the highway conditions are suitable for unrelated businesses that would result in significant increases in traffic. Now, I know you've got a condition number, condition number 5, I think, which says that the extension can only be used in conjunction with the business operating from the attached building. But of course, that business could change, couldn't it? So you could have a business suddenly, whatever's operating in that building at the moment could stop, and you could have another operation which causes more traffic. So is that condition sufficient to allay the concerns that highways have expressed that highway conditions aren't really suitable for any significant increases in traffic?
Stuart, any comment on that?
Hannah might want to comment on that condition. I mean, it's obviously tying the extension to storage only and shall be only used in conjunction with the business operating from the attached building. So it's tying them both together. I think that is probably sufficient, but again, Hannah may have some further comments.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I mean, I think they're operated by the same people, and obviously those same people own the site. Given the proximity of the site to the A47, I think that's fully reasonable because it's only a short way. Sorry, not the A47, the A17. It's only a short way from the site to the junction with the A17. And given the circumstances of that, I think that's fully reasonable. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you.
There's a second point there on page 30, bottom of the big paragraph. It's about hours of use. And it says you can't condition the hours of use on the new building because there aren't any conditions of use on the existing building. Well, as more traffic is likely to be generated or more work is likely to be generated, is that actually correct? Or if there is a concern about hours of use, I don't know whether there is from the parish council, can't there be a condition about hours of use?
I think we've got to be reasonable there, what we propose, but...
Chair,
sorry, anything got to say about that, Hannah? That was.
I was just going to say. I mean, I think obviously you've got an existing set of businesses there that are currently unrestricted, and you're going to be potentially placing, further restrictions on a business that's not really causing essentially an issue with regard to the hours of use. It's more from the parish council's point of view, the use of Station Road. So, I mean, I think in this circumstance, I don't think that's necessarily reasonable. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thanks very much. Well, if we can get to the vote on the matter now. We've got no more speakers, but we need to add the condition that Councillor Squire made to encourage traffic to go towards the what number would A17 would it be? Rather than that can be worded, Stuart, in a reasonable fashion.
Yeah, you can, Chairman. I mean, interestingly, it was a similar condition that was on the agenda on page 23, the first application, something like that, along the lines of traffic management scheme, including directional signage.
Okay, so members, bearing that in mind, when we vote, we're asked to approve the application, but that will be that condition that Stuart and Hannah, no doubt, will word it sensibly between them. If you're happy with that, you'll be voting for that too. Kathy, could we go over to
my yellow hand seems to have been ignored.
Sorry?
my hand up seems to have been ignored.
Terry, you should be in the chat function. What happened there?
I did put it in the chat function, but it seems.
Oh, well, I can't see it.
I'm sorry, I didn't see it.
Well, I can't see it either.
No,
No,
well,
I'm sorry.
I put the yellow hand up and the chat function.
You need to type your name in because I can't see it on my screen now.
But it keeps disappearing, which is why I've now tried to attract your attention.
Terry, Tony, over to you. You wish to speak, yeah?
Whilst I fully sympathise with the restriction on the right turn out of the property for vehicles servicing it, it does put rather a large detour in place for any staff members that live to the north of the of the site. So could we put a weight restriction on the no right turn?
I'm not sure is that Terry. Stuart would like.
No, I think. Well, I think you've got enough flexibility in the to cover for staff. In, for example, the condition a traffic management scheme, including directional signage. So you could agree that sort of detail.
With the detail, yeah. I think anything else might be a bit over the top, to be perfectly frank. Anyway, members, we've got to come to the vote. We're asked to propose that it's approved, and the condition that proposed by Councillor Squire, seconded by Councillor Bauer, of course, that is included in it. Kathy, over to you for the roll call.
Councillor Bone.
4.
Councillor Bauer.
4.
Councillor Bubb.
4.
Councillor Crofts.
4.
Councillor Howland.
4.
Councillor Hudson.
4.
Councillor Joyce.
4.
Councillor Kirk.
4.
Councillor Lawton.
4.
Councillor Manning.
4.
Councillor Parish.
4.
Councillor Patel.
4.
Councillor Rose.
4.
Councillor Ives.
4.
Councillor Sandal.
4.
Councillor Spikings.
4.
Councillor Story.
4.
And Councillor Squire.
4.
Yeah, that's carried unanimously.
Thank you very much, members. That one's carried then unanimously. It's now 9:30 on the dot. So shall we say we'll have a comfort break and we'll return at 20 minutes to 11 and the next application will be North Wrongton. Kathy, can you organise the temporary close down?
Yes, fine. We'll sort that.
We'll all be back at 20 minutes to 11. I think we're all ready to start again. Kathy, I don't know, I think we ought to have a roll call, didn't we? Make sure we know who's here and who isn't.
Yep, that's fine, Chair. Just bear with me for a second.
Just to make sure we're all present.
Yeah, I'll just get my... Okay, Councillor Bone.
Present.
Councillor Bauer.
Present.
Councillor Bubb.
Present.
Councillor Crofts.
Present.
Councillor Howland.
Present.
Councillor Hudson.
Present.
Councillor Joyce.
Present.
Councillor Kirk.
Present.
Councillor Lawton.
Present.
Councillor Manning.
Present.
Councillor Parish.
Present.
Councillor Patel.
Present. Thank you, Kathy.
Councillor Rose.
Present.
Councillor Rives.
Present.
Councillor Sandal.
Present.
Councillor Spikings.
Present.
Councillor Squire.
Here.
Councillor Story.
Present.
Thank you. That's everyone, Chair.
Thanks, everybody, for confirming your attendance. Right, the next application we've had to consider is on page 37. It's North Ronkton, and we have 3 speakers. Hannah, this is over to you.
With Chair, I've just lost my screen, so I'm just going to stop sharing a minute and start
Okay.
again. There we go. Okay, can everybody see that?
You can, or I can.
You can. Excellent. Right. Okay, so this is the site to the rear of the existing Esso filling station at 36 West Winch Road, West Winch, but it is actually in the parish of North Ronkton. Just to clarify that, and you'll note obviously that correction on page 2 of your late reps. So this is the application site as identified in red. It is an existing building that could be used for commercial purposes and has a commercial use. Used to be part of garaging as part of the Esso service station, with access through from the site, the existing Esso station. This is the proposed block plan. You'll note it's a full application, and it's for 2 times 3 bedroom bungalows. So this is the footprint of the bungalows with parking and turning on each plot, and gardens to the rear. Similar kind of size plots to the existing properties to the west. These are the proposed bungalows. I mean, they're modest in their form, and obviously contain 3 bedrooms. As you can see here, kitchen, living, dining, and 3 bedrooms per unit. So this is Regent Avenue itself, and obviously the Esso filling station here, bungalows either side. And this is Regent Avenue, and the site is to the left here. Again, further along Regent Avenue, you'll notice all existing bungalows, some of which semi-detached as well, and the site off to your left. This is looking back at the site. This is the existing commercial building. And again, further to the south, you can just see the service station off at the back there, and further housing. And the further of the building. And then you're looking to the south again, it was existing bungalows, and to the neighbouring site to the west. So issues are outlined on your agenda pages on page 39. Obviously, with this application, it's a finely balanced application in terms of the balancing what could be the existing use being generated again for commercial activities with additional traffic onto the A10. those kind of traffic figures balanced against residential plots, of which you can see 2 here. Now, obviously, the County Council, as local highway authorities, assessed the matter, and given the existing commercial use that could be generated again, has balanced it out finally, and they considered that the 2 plots would be acceptable. We've obviously looked at it from the traffic generating point of view, as well as the neighbour nuisance point of view, in terms of the loss of an employment site and whether that would have any impact. In our view, again, the provision of 2 residential plots adjacent to the garage would be far more preferable to upping the nature of the commercial use as it stands. Hence the recommendation of approve, and it has been referred to Planning Committee as the Parish Council representations are contrary to the officer recommendation, and that sifting panel require the application to be determined by Planning Committee. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Hannah. We have 3 speakers.
Could
Kathy.
we please have Rick Morris to address the committee, and you have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Welcome, Mr. Morris.
Hello. As Hannah says, it's actually in North Langton Parish, which is why I'm speaking. We've objected to this on the grounds that the development will not have safe access to the highway, which we think is demonstrable because, as you've seen, there's a very narrow road, which incidentally, there's no red line on that plan allowing access to the highway. That will have to be along an unadopted track, which we would have thought was contrary to planning norms anyway. But it's demonstrably not safe because it's got to come out right next to the garage forecourt where all the other garage vehicles are coming in and out. It's a sloping access up to the road. There's very poor sight lines, and it's a few meters away from the existing bus stop. We know this is a material matter because you've raised it on an application only 50 metres or less than 50 metres to the north at 32 West Winch Road, which was refused this time last year. And the wording on that was the development would cause undue interference with the safe and free flow of traffic on the important traffic route to the detriment of highway safety. So we know that this is an issue that the borough and the Highways Authority have raised before, but we're getting in a muddle with all of these applications along the A10 because basically the policy, local plan policy E22 is very vague and unclear. And if you look at item 1 on that policy, it says A, no significant development individually or cumulatively will be permitted to obtain access to the A10 in advance of the new West Winch Link Road opening. And then it says B, new development would normally be set back from the road and provide for significant areas of planting adjacent to the road. Well, obviously none of those things are relevant for this particular application. The Winch application was given consent with 17 new houses, which would appear to be contrary to that policy. We've got the Miller chicken farm has now got about 20 residential caravans on it, which again would appear to be in contrary to that policy. And yet other applicants with very straightforward applications for one house on garden land or something like that have been refused on grounds of traffic safety. So we're getting in a muddle. The policy is vague. We would urge you to refuse this on the grounds of that you've refused other applications along the road. And moreover, we would say that the item 2 in that policy, E.22, is also vague about the countryside buffer, which is presumably about saving trees. What we're finding is that everybody's cutting down their trees before they put the application in. So that needs review.
3 minutes.
Mr. Morris, you've had your 3 minutes.
You've had your time, Mr. Morris. Thanks for your contribution. Now we have other speakers.
Could we please have Andrew Dowell to address the committee, and you also have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Welcome, Andrew.
Hi there. Morning, everyone. I speak on behalf of our client, the Motor Fuel Group, regarding this planning application. as explained, our client seeks planning permission for the redevelopment of the existing redundant site, formerly used in connection with the garage to the east of the site. With regards to access, a consultation response was received by the North Runcton Parish Council, objecting to the scheme due to the alleged unsafe access from the A10. The Norfolk County Council Highway Authority has undertaken an assessment in terms of the likely net additional traffic generation, access arrangement and parking provision, and they are satisfied that the application would not have a material impact on the safety and operation of the adjoining public highway, and concluded that they do not object to the proposals and have proposed one compliance condition in relation to surfacing, which our client is happy to accept. With regards to employment land, applications for alternative uses of land or buildings should be treated on their merits, having regard to market signals and the relative need for different land uses to support sustainable local communities. This application is in compliance with policies at both a local and national level. So just to conclude, the principle of the redevelopment of this particular site is therefore encouraged within the planning framework at national and adopted local plan level, as it will facilitate the use of a previously developed site within a sustainable location. So on the basis of the foregoing, we respectfully request that planning permission is approved, subject to the conditions that have been recommended by the case officer.
Thank you, Mr. Dow. We have one other speaker.
Could we please have Councillor Kemp to address the committee, please?
Welcome,
Yes,
Councillor Kemp.
Yes, good morning. Let me see.
Your video's not on. It is now, or it was.
Yes,
It's
good
now.
morning. Yes, well, I oppose this application as the County Councillor for West Winch, because this has a huge impact on the general problems with the A10. It's a road of national significance, a major route network, and any increase in the use of the A10 is going to increase more slowing, stopping and turning movements. Now, strategic routes like the A10 play a vital role in carrying traffic between centres of population, and development in the vicinity of these roads on all their junctions adds a significant local traffic movements and vehicular conflict. Drivers on corridors of movement don't expect to keep having to slow down, stop and turn. And I'd invite you to look at the traffic, the accident record of the road in West Winch and Setchie, which is very high. It's 31 personal injury road traffic accidents in the last 5 years. And it includes the most dangerous junction site in the whole of Norfolk on a county road in the past 3 years as well. The issue is that people have to stop and slow and turn all the while. It's a major route with lorries, a major HGV route to the port. And it has 11% of HGVs on it. So until we get a bypass, which we're hoping to get, if the government gives us the money and the county council gives us the money, we need to limit access on the A10. And you may think, well, just one house, two houses, but there are appeals. And I've had some information sent to me from the county council, the appeal of APV 2635, when Inspector Norman said that even one access, a single dwelling from the Hardwick Narrows Lane, which is of course where we're looking at, onto the A10, would result in harm to the flow of traffic onto the A10. And he said that this would have an impact on highway safety, even one new building. And then we've got Inspector Hainsworth as well. And he said, regarding access from this area to the A10, in appeal reference V2635, even the small number of traffic movements associated with a single dwelling would be prejudicial to the function of the A10 as a primary corridor of movement. So we've got the issues of the appeals, we've got the safety issue, and in the Mayor of Cambridge's study, this part of the A10 was the worst performing section of the A10 in the whole of the Mayor of Cambridgeshire study. So until we've actually got that bypass in place, we can't have any more development on this road. It would be dangerous for the poor people living there. I also note the issue of human health. It would be a condition of the planning that there should be a study for human health, but really you're putting the cart before the horse, because plot 1 would be 15 metres from the nearest petrol fuel pump and 7 metres to the nearest vent. You're going to have a risk of pollution, not just accidents, but of fumes. And the fire service says that there should be a 30 minutes, 60-minute resistance rather than 30 minutes if you've got vulnerable people there. So we're basically saying vulnerable people, older people, anybody who's disabled shouldn't be living in these homes. And I think this needs to be balanced. As I say, I disagree with it on the highways grounds. I've had lots of information sent from the county council with a potted history of planning appeals, and looking at it in the context, the human health issue, and the fact, of course, that there's no parking space in this very narrow Regent Lane, is going to cause a problem. And I'm sorry, but it really should be refused. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you. Hannah, anything to say about what the speakers have said?
I think let's just deal with the human health issue first. I mean, you will note that neither CSNN nor the environmental quality teams, neither Norfolk Fire and Rescue Service object on human health grounds. And there's quite detailed comments on pages 41, 42 and 43 to that effect. In terms of the parking and turning, clearly parking and turning is contained on the site. Provision for 2 parking spaces and turning, which is in accordance with Norfolk County Council standards. In terms of the impact with regard to the A10, it is a finely balanced issue, and this is, we have resisted applications onto the A10, and members are very familiar with that, and you cite the relevant appeal decisions. However, you have to balance this site against the fact that it could open up as a further commercial garage onto the A10, creating far more traffic than 2 residential plots. And in that regard, the County Council has recommended no objection, and we support it as officers of the Council. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Hannah. Speakers? Oh, first, I believe, with your permission, Carol, we'll proceed to speak. Hannah's just covered what I was going to say. It is quite possible for that garage to be used and the access to go out onto the garage again, and there's nothing we can do about that. But my other thing is the roadway they're going to use is privately owned. It looks very well maintained. Normally, when you get roadways like this, there are potholes and everything else, and this looks as if that's A1. Do we know about the ownership exactly, or we've just said private owner? Do we know, or is it irrelevant? I suppose the people who this application, the people must have got permission to use it. It does look well maintained, which is unusual, and I can't see how it's difficult for us to turn it down on that basis without the support of Norfolk County Council and Highways. I think it's very difficult.
Exactly, and that will be a matter of for the landowner to negotiate. Sorry, can't get my words out. With the owner of the tract to secure access. If they can't do that, obviously they can't develop the site. But that is a civil matter. The red line didn't need to go round up to the county highway. We've had legal advice on that. And as far as we're concerned, they can secure access. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Councillor Joyce, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On the legal advice, the County Council have challenged it. On the 3rd of September, Richard Smith, who we all know, wrote to say, "I'm not sure your legal advice is correct." Now, the response from the County Council on the 25th of November didn't actually contradict Richard Smith. And what Richard has actually said, access to the site is not clear as suggested. It's theoretical, as they have not demonstrated any right of access. The plot is, as I say, I'm only reading, landlocked. They cannot access it by foot in theory. Your authority has raised an issue in recent years that even a private access point over a footway technically needs to be indicated within the red edged land. And this is public highway. You may wish to recheck. And as I say, the response didn't actually change from that when they responded on the 25th. Now it's very clear, or it should be clear, that the applicant's site should be edged clearly with a red line on the location plan. It should include all land necessary to carry out the proposed development. That's government guidance. And a blue line should be drawn around any other land owned by the applicant close to or adjoining the application site. Again, planning guidance, as Stuart will tell us. So we're led to believe, whether it's true or not, I don't know, that the garage itself is owned by a different person to the applicant. Now, on the actual application site, it's the agent who has signed, not the owner. The agent may very well be the owner, but it's unlikely. So we're not 100% certain of who the owner is, unless someone can tell us. So there is quite a bit of debate about the legal aspects of access to the site from either a private site, as Hannah said, is a civil matter, but highway access to the highway is not. So we're in a bit of a quandary here, Mr. Chairman, because highways are challenging the planning department's legal advice. And where do we stand?
Thank you, Charles. Hannah or Stuart, do you wish to respond to that?
Well, again, as I've explained, our legal advice from East Law is that they do not need to demonstrate access to the county highway. They've got a red line which touches an existing access, which obviously goes to the highway or the county highway, and therefore we don't need to make them change the red line up to the edge of that county highway. I can't tell you anything that other than that's what our legal advice is.
Thank you very much.
Councillor Rives. Councillor Rives, Chair.
Excuse me, Chairman, could I ask a question on the very point you're discussing, please? Because this seems to be information that Councillor Joyce is privy to, but the rest of us don't seem to have a lot of knowledge of it.
Yeah,
So I'd just like to know, where are we on this, please?
I understand that we must discuss things that are in the agenda and not what I do understand your point. I do take your point. Perhaps you'd like to respond to that, Stuart, because what Charles did come out with things that are not in the application. The detail is.
I presume Councillor Joyce read off the public access on the website.
Oh, I see.
I may be wrong on that, but again, Councillor Joyce will be able to tell us that.
Yeah, that is. Yeah, perhaps. Yeah, okay. Anyway, we'll go to the next speaker, and perhaps Councillor Joyce will join us. We'll put his name down again later to explain.
Councillor Rives.
I'm happy with Councillor Joyce to speak now while it's fresh in everyone's mind and come back after him, if that's okay.
Well, he's not down to speak. Well, he is now. Carol, I think should we go to Councillor Joyce?
Yeah, Councillor Joyce.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Stuart's exactly right. I've read it off the actual planning application website. September the 3rd was Richard Smith's. The county council did respond again on the 25th of November, and they didn't contradict themselves. They didn't say, actually, they're right. What they said, it was the planning authority's view. And as for the other, I mean, that's planning guidance. It's paragraph 24 of planning guidance that it can easily be accessed from the Ministry of Housing, Communities and Local Government website. It's not secret. I understand, I've looked at it. And perhaps others haven't. And I do understand their concern over this. But when we're talking about highways legal advice, who do we believe? Do we believe the county highways or do we believe East Law? We're really in a quandary.
I was going to say you have a choice.
The highways are the experts. They have the expert lawyers who deal with highways and nothing else but highways. East Law deal with everything.
Thank you, Charles. Next speaker, please.
Councillor Rives.
Thank you, Chair. That's a very fair point, I think, from Councillor Joyce. My concern is follows on from Councillor Kemp's concerns about the health of the site. And in front of my screen, I won't read it all to you mainly because it's in Spanish, but there is university research sort of strongly critical of the very idea of locating residential units within 50 metres of a petrol station. And this is due to they find, quote translation, they find dangerous airborne pollutants from garages could contaminate buildings from at least 100 from as far as 100 metres away. On those grounds, I think the very idea of putting a residential unit next to an active petrol station is almost criminal. whilst there's concern about airborne pollutants, I don't see how anyone in their right minds could possibly support this application. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Councillor Parish.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, congratulations to Councillor Kemp for a very informed contribution to this discussion, particularly the contributions that you mentioned from two appeal inspectors, which I feel nobody can ignore. Now we turn to the Highways comments about traffic, or the argument that's been made that this site, if it wasn't a couple of bungalows, could be used for a commercial site and has been used as a commercial site before. Well, I understand from the late correspondence that the access to this site, as it stands at the moment, was always through the garage. So there may have been traffic to this site, but it wouldn't be onto a new access onto the A10, it'd be through the existing garage access. And presumably, if it's returned to industrial use, then stipulation or condition could be made that the access would be through the garage site again. So there would be no new access. It seems ludicrous that if there's been refusals to similar applications before on highways grounds, if appeal inspectors have supported such refusals, that we go ahead and support this particular application. It's been stressed that this is a finely balanced decision. Well, where highway safety is concerned, I would have thought that you would err on the side of safety, and the finely balanced decision would go to the safe decision, which would be to refuse the application. Thank you.
Everything is based on its own merits. You can't compare it to others. Stuart, you wish to speak and clarify, no doubt.
Yes, Chairman. I mean, Councillor Parish will pick up on what he said. It is finely balanced, and Hannah said that. I mean, the nub of it is that we put weight on the former use of the site. Members will have to take a view whether they agree with that or not, and that is effectively the issue at hand here. Yes, there have been other appeal decisions, and we have, we've supported that, and we've almost argued the opposite at committee here, why we should refuse something. The issue here is that the only reason we're recommending approval, and again, it is on balance, is the former use of it. So that, again, that is what it comes down to, really, and whether you as members think we put too much weight on that or not. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much. We haven't any more speakers, have we? No, we haven't.
Did Councillor Spikings want to speak?
Did you want to speak again, Vivian?
Yes, because my last one was because obviously I needed some clarification
Yes,
on
of
what
course.
Councillor Joyce was speaking on, because obviously, we bring up new issues as we debate.
Yeah.
But one of the things I read again is highway access. And we do not have support from the local highway authority on this application. It does state that this commercial aspect can be reused, and that is some of the nub of it. You can get even worse going back in there, although you won't have domestic residences. I also know in the firemen, the fire, Norfolk Fire and Rescue have not objected again, and they say that a 2 metre height brick wall they are acceptable with. Well, there are the experts that we use and ask what are their views, and they will not support that. So I think they are 2 modest bungalows coming along, and the people are aware who buy them, who do want to buy them. And I know it's on balance, but I feel that if this went to appeal, we'd lose on this. It's got everything there, and I'm sorry, each case is on its merit and what the others have done. But these are 2 modest bungalows. People are crying out for these smaller homes. We keep saying, everybody's building big and all the rest of it. So I'm sorry, if you refuse this owner can go back to that commercial use, and you can have loads more traffic of bigger vehicles and tow trucks, etc., going into it. So I'm sorry, but on balance, I think I'm happy to see it approved.
I sympathise with you. Next speaker.
Councillor Story, and then Councillor Joyce again.
I thought we got Councillor Hudson in there somewhere.
Oh, sorry, I missed her. Sorry
Christine.
about that.
All right, thank you. There are bungalows further down the Russell Avenue. So, I mean, these must be of some age since, well, they look to be of some age. And one at the top of Russell Avenue that has got a front entrance and it's got a side entrance. So really, we've got a precedent set for access via Russell Avenue onto the A10, whether or not it's an unmade road or whether it's been adopted. There is a precedent there for using Russell Avenue as an access onto the A10. And I think that needs to be taken into consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Story.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I think I find it very disturbing, really, that on the legal advice, we seem to be getting Norfolk County Council's legal advice on county highways saying one thing and the borough's legal advice saying something else. And to us, as lay people making a decision on an application, surely we must have the right and proper and correct legal advice. And shouldn't those two authorities got together really and suggest and come down firmly on the correct advice to be given to this authority planning committee? Because you can't operate like that, Chairman. You just can't. You can't have two legal departments saying different things. I mean, us as lay people, as I suggest, Chairman, we're going to be left floundering if a legal case goes forward and we've made a decision we probably shouldn't have done. So I can't see, Chairman, that's right at all for that to take place. And obviously the views of most members on this particular application refers to the highway issue. And highways exactly Norfolk County Powers 5 on 41 explain exactly why they've reached their opinion. And Councillor Spikins is obviously right in what she suggests, because you can go back to its original use, obviously one would assume with more traffic. So I just think, Chairman, not having the correct one view, correct legal advice.
We appear to have lost you, Martin. We've got the gist of what you meant to say, I'm certain. Stuart, do you want to make a comment on this legal advice business?
It's difficult, isn't it, Sharon? I mean, the courts operate with lawyers arguing against each other, don't they?
Of course they do. That's very true.
all the time.
Exactly.
I mean, we've taken our legal advice. There's two options. I think we either accept that or we defer and go and try and sort the issue out. That's the reality, I think, of where we are.
Stuart, could you? Sorry, Martin, could you still hear us? You're on mute, but we lost you for a little while. You see, but could you still hear us?
I didn't hear what Stuart said. No.
You say.
Do you want me to repeat that? Do you want me to repeat?
Yeah, but right, Stuart, off you go again.
Effectively, Councillor Story. Yeah, I mean, as I was saying, the courts operate. Our lawyers argue against each other, don't they, all the time? But I understand what you're saying. Two public bodies such as this, we've got our legal advice though. That we're sticking with. The only other option would be to defer and seek further clarification. That is an option. We can do that, or we stick to our legal advice. Thank you, Chairman.
Next speaker, please.
Councillor Joyce.
New point, Charles.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Stuart has come up with a very good suggestion that when you go to court, at least one set of lawyers are wrong. I would propose deferment on this, simply so that this can be thrashed out, because I'm looking at November the 25th response and the highways have not changed their opinion. You know, they're back down to some extent, but they've not changed their opinion. They're clearly not happy. CSN normally don't quote on anything below 3 sites. So why would they bother on 2? And of course, are we 100% certain that this is actually, the site itself is owned by a separate entity to the garage? Because if so, that should have been blue lined, and it's not. It's clearly not blue lined if the garage is owned by someone different to who owns this land. And at present, as far as I know, you still just drive in there and use it as to fill your car up or your lorry or whatever you're filling up. So I think deferment to get these matters sorted out. And, I call Martin Mr. Common Sense. He's absolutely right. it is common sense. They need to actually come to an opinion that is coherent. And at present, two legal teams seem to be arguing with each other, and they're on the same side.
It's not unusual. I'll take your point.
It is unusual when they're on the same side.
Well, yeah, I know, I understand. Next speaker, please.
Councillor Lawton.
Yeah, I was going to back Councillor Story. I don't know if he was making a proposal that we defer it, but I would second that because it is a very, very valid point. So and if he's not proposing it, I'll propose that it's deferred until they get this legal bit sorted out.
Councillor Story.
Yes, Chairman, I was making to defer this application so we all bat on the same week. Thank you.
And your reasons for the deferment are?
Not understanding the advice given by county and borough legals teams. They seem to be again or of a different opinion until we have a correct legal opinion which will hold up in court or across the country. I'm not satisfied with the information I've been given.
And that's been seconded by Councillor Robert Lawton. Is that okay? Stuart, would that hold water?
Yes, Chairman, that's fine. I understand
It would.
that totally.
Right, we will have that. We'll have that vote very shortly. We've got one more speaker though.
Councillor Parish.
It's okay. It's been answered now. Thank you.
All right.
Okay, so we've had a proposal that the application is deferred so the legal implications can be sorted out to our satisfaction. Will that be about what you were on about, Martin? Yes?
Yes, Chairman, that's correct.
Yeah, that would be and it's seconded by Councillor Lawton. So when we go to the vote, you'll be voting for this adjournment for that reason. And Kathy, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Bone.
For.
Councillor Bauer.
For.
Councillor Bubb.
For.
Councillor Crofts.
Against.
Councillor Howland.
Against.
Councillor Hudson.
For.
Councillor Joyce.
For.
Councillor Kirk.
Against.
Councillor Lawton.
For.
Councillor Manning.
For.
Councillor Parish.
For.
Councillor Patel.
For.
Councillor Rose. Councillor Rose. Oh, right, okay.
He's left the meeting. That means his vote can't count anyway then.
Councillor Rives.
For.
Councillor Sandal.
For.
Councillor Spikings.
For.
Councillor Story.
For.
And Councillor Squire.
For.
So that's deferred 14 votes for, 3 against.
Thank you very much. Big debate we had out there. So that will be deferred until such times as the legal situation is clarified. And there's differences of opinion what we have of two sides arguing. I do see your point, but there you go. Anyway, that's it. I think we've got one more item to consider. That is number 9, I believe. Let's have a look. Yes, it is. Delegated decisions. You've had those but we need to propose that the delegated decisions are carried out to our satisfaction. Anyone got any objections? None at all. Therefore, we will close that. And the next meeting, I understand, is March the 8th. The Parkway situation is not sorted and clarified yet, but it will be. But that, of course, when that comes up, that will be a meeting solely for that application. And although this has been a very short meeting, only 3 applications, that is very, very unusual. I do expect the March one to be a lot more weighted than that. Anyway, thanks everybody for their contributions. I'll declare the meeting closed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.